always a smile on my face when we're doing Wisdom Live. Just want to check if it's connecting right there. You guys are so welcome being here this morning. So welcome to Wisdom, a series for the entrepreneur. This Tuesday, I think so many people, because of the crises happening in, outside the planned, scheduled crises happening in South Africa this morning, just know that a lot of entrepreneurs are thinking that maybe something is not going to realize or happen or continue this morning. But Wisdom is live every single Tuesday. I think we had in our journey now, and we had week number 22 from 31 weeks. I think we had not 2 or 3. It was 2 times that we missed out. Once due to technical difficulties and once due to unforeseen, unplanned stupidity, I guess, from my end at the end of the day. So this is Wisdom. You're so welcome. If you've missed any of the episodes, please feel free to join our YouTube channel. All the other episodes are right there. But I'm not going to explain every single time what this is about. We're going to jump straight into exactly just that. And today we're talking about delayed gratification, the stranger who inherits everything. I want to introduce you to someone this morning. Someone you have never met them. You will not meet them today, even though I introduced them to you all this year. But everything you are doing right now is being done for them. The company you are building, the money you are not spending, the habits you are grinding into place at an hour when no one is watching. I mean, I was up until 1 a.m. this morning getting some last minute admin done. So excuse the puffy eyes, I guess. The body you are trying to keep, the trust you are trying to earn, the name you are trying to leave clean, all of this is for one person. And you have never once looked them in the eye. Who are they? Of course, they are you. 15, 20, 30 years from here. The version of you who will live inside every single decision you are making this week. And who has no vote in actually any of them. Here's what almost no one says out loud about that person. In every choice that genuinely tests you, they are sitting on the other side of the table. And the deal is always the same. You pay, but they collect. You do the waking up early, they get the health. You take the smaller check now, they get the company that's still standing. You sit in the discomfort of the unfinished thing, and they get to live in the finished version of it. Every act of self-denial you have ever managed was underneath a single strange, I would say, transaction. You were asked to suffer for someone you've never met. That is what we are actually talking about this morning. Not willpower, not discipline in the gym poster sense. We are talking about the most quietly decisive skill in any life that ends well. The ability to hand real, present, today comfort to a stranger in the future and trust the trade was absolutely worth it. The scriptures have a great deal to say about this, more than you'd expect, and almost none of it were where you kind of like expect to find it. Because the wisdom literature, especially looking at Proverbs from Solomon, does not treat this as a test of how hard you can clench. It treats it as a question about who you are in a relationship with the now or the not yet. Let me show you 3 things: how the trade gets lost, why the way most of us try to win it runs out, and the one thing that changes the trade entirely, that turns the waiting from a sentence you serve into a thing you'd almost choose. So let's start with how it gets lost, because there is a scene in Genesis that shows the whole failure in about 90 seconds. And it is so ordinary, it's kind of like almost funny when we look back at it now, especially from our point of view. Of course, talking about the 2 brothers, Esau the older, a hunter, a man of the field, all appetite in motion. Jacob the younger, at home by the fire. Esau comes in from a long day in the open country and he is starving, not dying, starving. The way a strong man is starving when he skipped a meal and the smell of kind of like, food hits him. Jacob has a pot of stew on, just set the scene, especially in the winter times. And Esau says, Give me some of that red stew. I'm famished. And Jacob, who is no hero in the story either, sees the opening and says, sell me your birthright first. The birthright, the double portion, the whole inheritance, the future, the standing, the blessing that would shape generations. The single most valuable thing Esau owned, and the only thing he owned that pointed forward. Listen to what Esau says back in Genesis 25, verse 32. I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? And there it is. That is the entire psychology of the lost trade in one sentence. I am about to die. He wasn't. He was hungry. But in the moment, the hunger felt like the whole world. And the future, the birthright, the inheritance, everything that mattered most, felt like a rumor, felt fictional, felt like something that belonged to a stranger he didn't owe anything to. So he ate it. And the text closes the scene with a line that should make every one of us go a little bit more quiet than usual. And that's in Genesis 25, verse 34. He says, he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Despised, not hated. The Hebrew is closer to treated as worthless, discounted it, marked it down, decided in the heat of an afternoon that tomorrow was worth less than a bowl of soup. And notice what it cost him. It did not cost him a fortune. That's the part we always get wrong about this. We imagine that people trade away their future for some enormous glittering temptation, but they almost never do. Esau sold the inheritance of a nation for one hot meal he had have forgotten by the next morning. That is how the trade with a stranger gets lost. Not on a grand sale, in a small, hungry, defensible yes to the thing right in front of you, paid for quietly by the same person you haven't met. Now, here's Solomon named the same mechanism, but in the language of money, where most of us actually live this out. And this is, of course, in Proverbs 13, verse 11. It says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Two ways to build. One is hasty, gained fast, grabbed, the lump sum, the shortcut, the windfall. The other is little by little, gathered slow, almost boring in its smallness. And Solomon tells you which one lasts, not the dramatic one. The dwindling is built into the haste. Wealth that comes without the waiting tends to leave without it too, because the man holding it never became the kind of man who could keep it. He got the harvest without ever becoming a farmer. The one who gathers little by little, the unglamorous one, the one putting away small amounts no one's impressed by, increases, it grows, quietly becomes wealthy while the hasty man is explaining where it all went. Stay with the trade for a second, because this is exactly Esau in a suit. The founder who takes the quick acquisition at a third of what patience would have built, because the cash is real now and the bigger company is a stranger's promise. The leader who pulls the unripe deal forward to make this quarter look good and spends the next two cleaning up what wasn't ready. The person who borrows tomorrow's reputation to buy today's applause. Watch who pays and who collects in every single one of those. Present you eats, future you starves. And it always feels in the moment like the only sensible choice a hungry man could make. And that's the first thing. The trade is lost not by people who want too little, but by people who let the loudest hunger in the room set the price on a future it was never qualified to value. So the obvious response, the one every business book and every motivational clip reaches for, is then grit your teeth, resist. Be one who can hold out. We have turned this whole subject into a contest of will. You know the famous version, a child, a single marshmallow, and a researcher who says, if you can leave it on the table until I come back, you'll get two. A hidden camera films, squirming. And we've built a small industry out of that image, the idea that the good life belongs to whoever can clench the hardest and want it the least. But here's what I want you to sit with. In all of Solomon's writing on this, and there's quite a lot of it, he almost never tells you to simply resist. He doesn't hand you a marshmallow and a stopwatch. The wisdom literature is far more honest than that and far more actually useful. It starts by admitting something the willpower crowd won't. Waiting actually hurts. Proverbs 13 verse 12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." Just when you open that scriptures up this morning, just read it very slowly because it is one of the most compassionate things in the entire book for me. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Solomon is not pretending the wait is easy. He's telling you that wanting something good and not yet having it makes you ill, heartsick. The specific low ache of the deferred thing, he names it. He doesn't shame it. The man who waits well is not the man who stopped wanting. He's the man who kept wanting and stayed sick for a while and didn't trade the birthright to make the sickness stop. And once you've admitted that, you can see why pure willpower completely runs out. Because willpower is alone. Every clenched teeth, no, you say to the thing in front of you is borrowed against a future you're not sure you believe in. And if the future feels fictional, the way the birthright fell to a hungry Esau, then you are borrowing against a debtor you don't trust to pay. No one keeps that up for long. And the heart gets sick, the future stays a rumor, and one ordinary afternoon you sell. Solomon does ask for self-government. But watch how he frames it, because it is not the frame you'd guess. It's in Proverbs 25, verse 28. And it says the following: "A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls." A city without walls, exposed on every side. Anything that wants in gets in. Every appetite, every impulse, every loud hunger walks straight through because there's no boundary to stop it. And that's the man who can't govern himself. Not weak, undefended. Whatever shows up sets the agenda. We see it in our Off the Cuff series when people ask, like, why is my calendar so hectic? Why is everything so busy? Why does my decisions just get overruled? It's because of this. And its partner verse raises the stakes. It says in Proverbs 16, verse 32, "Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." The man who rules his spirit is rated higher than the man who conquers a city. Think about how strange that scoring is. Solomon looks at the general who took the fortress and the man who held his own temper, his own appetite, his own impulse, and says the second one did the greater thing. But here's the word that I don't want you to miss: rules. He who rules his spirit, not starves it, not beats it into silence. A ruled spirit is a governed one, like a city under good leadership, not a city under siege from its own king. Self-control in Proverbs is never a man at war with himself, white-knuckling against his own wanting. It's a man whose wanting has a wise government over it. There's a throne, and the appetite is a subject, not the king, which tells you where the willpower model actually falls, or rather where it fails. It treats the appetite as an enemy to be defeated daily by force forever, and no city survives being permanently at war with itself. So if it's mainly about force, what is the thing that changes the trade? The failure of delayed gratification is almost never a failure of will. Esau didn't lack willpower, he lacked imagination. He couldn't picture the birthright vividly enough to outweigh a bowl of soup he could smell. And you cannot wait for what you cannot see. That's the turn. The person who waits well isn't gritting harder than you. They're seeing something clearer than you are. So fall in love with the harvest. Let me give you the other brother, because Genesis sets them up on purpose. And the contrast is the whole lesson. Apologies. Jacob, the same Jacob who bought the stew, grows up, runs, and falls in love with Rachel. And her father strikes a hard bargain. 7 years of labor before he can marry her. 7 years for a young man on fire that should have been a sentence, a near eternity of waiting for the one thing you wanted most. Look at what the text says instead, Genesis 29 verse 20. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. 7 years. and they seem to him but a few days. It quietly demolishes the willpower model. The same weight that would have crushed another man flew past Jacob, not because he was tougher, not because he wanted Rachel less and so suffered less, but because he wanted her more. The love didn't make the waiting harder, it made it shorter. He wasn't enduring 7 empty years between him and the prize. He was already in some way with her the whole time because she was that real to him. The harvest was vivid enough to make the waiting feel like courtship instead of deprivation. And that is the thing the marshmallow test will never teach you. The secret of patience is not a stronger no to the present, it's a clearer yes to the future. Jacob didn't white knuckle 7 years. He fell in love with the harvest, and the harvest carried him through. Solomon points at exactly this, and he sends you to the least romantic teacher imaginable to learn it. Proverbs 6, verse 6 to 8. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. We tend to read the ant as a lecture about being busy. It might be, in this case, it isn't quite. Look at what the ant is actually doing. In summer, when there's no winter in sight, when nothing is forcing her hand, when no officer is standing over her, she works towards a season she cannot yet feel. She gathers in the warmth for a cold she can picture but isn't living in. And that's not busyness, that's foresight made into a habit. The ant has a working relationship with the future she can see clearly enough to serve today. No one's making her. The harvest is real to her. So the summer labor isn't a grind, it's just what you do when the winter is real to you. And Solomon gives you the order of operations plainly for anyone building anything. Proverbs 24, verse 27. Prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field, and after that, build your house. Field first, house after. The field is the thing that produces the slow, the unglamorous, the income bearing work. The house is the thing that displays the comfort, the visible reward, part everyone sees and admires. And Solomon's sequence is brutally clear and almost universally ignored. Build what feeds you before you build what shows you off. Get the field producing, and then out of what the field gives, build the house. Esau ate the field. He consumed the productive thing, the birthright, the future, the seed, to satisfy a present hunger. The wise man plants it and waits and builds the house out of the harvest in its season. I want to take this as far up as it goes because the deepest version of this is not in Proverbs at all. It's a pattern underneath the whole scripture. When the New Testament wants to describe how Christ endured the cross, it doesn't say he gritted his teeth. It says he did it for the joy that was set before him, a joy held in view, a harvest so real, so beloved, that the worst suffering in the universe was carried by the seeing of it. And even there, especially there, the waiting was not powered by clenched will. It was powered by a future that was loved. So here's the reframe, and it overturns almost everything we're taught about this. Patience is not the absence of desire. The patient person is not the one who learned to want less. Patience is desire pointed far enough away at a harvest real enough, beloved enough, clearly enough seen that the cost of the wait stops feeling like a loss and starts feeling like investment in someone you love. And the someone, of course, is the stranger from the start of this morning, the one who inherits everything. And that's the person that you are waiting for. So I don't want to leave you with this usual exhortation to the stronger, to be stronger this week, to resist harder, to want less. That's the marshmallow talking, and it runs out by Thursday. The question underneath delayed gratification was never really, can you wait? It's a different question on its own. Do you know the person you're waiting for? Is your future self real to you? As real as Rachel was to Jacob, as real as the winter is to the ant, or is he or she a rumor, a stranger, a birthright you trade for a bowl of something hot on a hard afternoon? because that's the whole hinge. Esau and Jacob waited differently for one reason. To Esau, the future was fiction, so he sold it cheap. To Jacob, the future he had faced, he loved. So 7 years felt like a few days. The same weight, same capacity to suffer, entirely different relationship with the not yet. And this is where it stops being a productivity trick and becomes a matter of your character, which is the only thing the series has ever really been about. Because when you make a habit of keeping faith with that stranger, of paying today so that, he can collect later, something happens that has nothing to do with the savings account or the company or the harvest itself. So you change. You slowly become a person who can be trusted with a promise. Someone who's today and who's tomorrow are on the same side. The kind of leader, the kind of parent, the kind of believer who can hold a thing in view for years and not sell it for soup. That was always the real reward. Not the marshmallow, not the double portion, not the exit, the harvest, the house. Those come in their seasons and they're very good. But the deeper thing you're building every time you keep that trade is a self that can keep faith with the person who isn't in the room yet. That person is counting on you this morning. He can't speak. He doesn't get a vote. He just inherits whatever you decide. So decide like he's real, because he or she is. And one ordinary day, sooner than you think, going to wake up and be that person. You're going to be him and live in the house your patience built or the field your hunger ate. Plant for him. Wait for him. He's the only stranger you are guaranteed to become. Thank you for joining this morning. Have a beautiful, blessed one. Cheers.